17th, 1996, Wednesday night, Lord Meher by Bal Kulturi, the biography of the Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba. We're in Volume 1, which covers 1894 to 1922, and we're on page 208. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. I'll begin to read, it was in the one Persian. It's a directional microphone, so I've got it on 120-degree pickup. Yeah, so it could pick up like this, and then if it just took it, just... One Persian who migrated to India and eventually became a close friend to Merwan, named Beheram Hoshang Faredoon Irani, suffered since childhood from severely defective eyesight. His maternal uncle Aspandiar Rustom Irani had brought him to Poona for medical treatment 7 years before, where he had been cured. Beheram was introduced to Merwan by Codec in 1914, and after some time became a frequent visitor at Merwan's house. BEHRAMJI, as he was affectionately called, was 22 years old, but then was still illiterate. However, he had a very sharp mind and was successful in the liquor business. To the delight of Merwan's parents, who thought he was returning to his normal self, Merwan started teaching BEHRAMJI to read and write Persian. Gradually, BEHRAMJI felt very drawn to Merwan. Later, they had a profound spiritual connection between them. Upon finding her son appearing to be more socially active and normal, Shireen would urge him, "Merwa, get a job. Get a good job. I know you have been mentally upset about something all these months, but if you engage in a steady job or profession, you will become your old self again." Merwan would not agree, however, so Shireen rented a room for him and suggested he expand his tutorship to offer his services to other Irani lads like BEHRAMJI, who would be also interested in learning Persian. But this too Merwan refused to do. Shireen then threatened to stop BEHRAMJI from visiting the house. Indifferently, Merwan consented. All right, do it if you like." At his lack of concern for human companionship, Shireen could only throw up her hands in exasperation, wondering what has happened to the son she always referred to as her most beautiful child. Merwan instructed BEHRAMJI to come to his room every day to be tutored in Persian, and nothing made BEHRAMJI happier. Oh, hi, Adi. Oh, no.
Hi.
It's Gigi and Nancy. Hi, goodness. You're supposed to take a chair.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, if you want to, you don't have to.
Okay, Baba.
Say Baba.
Baba.
And nothing made BEHRAMJI happier than these daily visits. BEHRAMJI would not even let his business affairs interfere. From being completely illiterate, within only 4 months, BEHRAMJI was able to read the poetry of Hafiz, due entirely to Merwan's efforts. Gradually, Merwan also became conversing with BEHRAMJI about God, the inner path, the need for a master, and other spiritual issues. BEHRAMJI was deeply interested and respected Merwan's view about spiritual matters. They became closely associated and together would leave Poona, visiting different places for several days at a time without informing anyone. On their return, when asked where they had been, Merwan would reply, "On a pilgrimage in search of holy men, saints." And there's a picture here of Beheram Hoshang Faredoon Irani, BEHRAMJI, during the 1920s. He had a big, you see a big mustache?
Yeah, he does. When your mustache doesn't look so young, you know? Big mustache, you don't know what is the age.
Yeah.
This is one of
I
Robert's
usually have a
friends
mustache like this.
when he was in the 20s.
You should have a mustache
I
like
used to
this.
have a mustache.
Do you have hair like this and a mustache like this? And the eyes twinkling?
It was during the month of April 1915 when Merwan told BEHRAMJI, "I am going away on a very long and arduous journey. I may not be back for a long time. I have decided to lead a life of a fakiri, renunciation and ascetic austerities. You may not hear from me for a long time, but if you should write But if I should write you to come, for you to come to me, you should immediately come to me wherever I am. BEHRAMJI was taken aback because he wanted to accompany Merwan wherever he was going. Disappointed but influenced by what Merwan had revealed to him about spirituality, BEHRAMJI promised. I'm going to take over on this same.
Sit down here.
You want to come inside?
Yeah.
Come in the circle.
This,
I have a knee pain a little bit.
oh, you have knee pain? Oh, you want to lay down?
Oh, no, I'm okay with you.
That same afternoon, Merwan boarded a train. He had brought a ticket to Ranchur in the south of India, but the sound of the song, the divine voice within, compelled him to get off the train at the remote village of Kedgaon, just 50 kilometers from Poona. There he inquired as to the whereabouts of Narayan Maharaj's ashram and walked 7 miles from the railway station to the Sadhguru's headquarters. During his walk, he became dazed. Merwan crossed a small stream and entered the grounds through a large gate, passing by the temple dedicated to Dattatreya. He then inquired, "Where is Narayan Maharaj?" "He is at his palace. Darshan is being held. Go, now. Narayan is giving his blessings," a caretaker replied. A large crowd, so it's a picture of that.
Oh, so that's Narayan's temple?
Oh, he was the rich guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He was in charge of all the economic.
Some guy appointed him.
Was all the silver, he has the silver.
Yeah.
This is the silver throne. A large crowd was in the palace, and Narayan Maharaj, wearing a gold crown, was seated on the silver throne of Dattatreya. Upon seeing Merwan, Narayan stopped the darshan and had all the people disperse. He came down from his throne and, taking Merwan by the hand, gently led him up a few steps to allow him to sit upon the throne. From his own shoulders, Narayan removed a flower garland, placed it around Merwan's neck, and called for mango juice, which was given to Merwan to drink. Merwan and Narayan then talked together for a while, though what they conversed about is not known.
Yeah.
Merwan stayed at Narayan Maharaj's ashram overnight, probably resting near the temple of Dattatreya. The next morning he walked back to the station and, finding a train about to leave, boarded it and was back in Poona within 24 hours. Upon seeing him, BEHRAMJI was very surprised, for he had not expected to see his friend again for several months. This was a time when our age had the opportunity to observe one of the 5 perfect masters' profound love for Merwan. If our age knew how deep was the love of each perfect master for Merwan, its heart could not contain the joy, the bliss. Narayan Maharaj's love for Merwan was truly something great and holy.
All right. Narayan Maharaj, like each perfect master, had to pass through the fires of the path to gain consciousness of his divinity. When Narayan had finally realized God, he had been reduced to ashes within and without. Merwan also suffered, but not in the same way as Narayan or any other perfect master. Merwan's suffering was different. It was because
Rooster. Like a rooster.
The wrong time of day. I don't even know if I could read. It was because he himself was God and Narayan, in unison with the other perfect masters, had helped bring him to incarnate on earth. Our age knows not what the love of each of the 5 perfect masters was for Merwan. These 5 persons were the ones who really brought God himself to earth. It was they who had drawn their Vidyani veil over Merwan for 19 years to hide his divine identity and to protect him until the time was right. It was Babajan who was called upon to lift this Vidyani veil away from Merwan, uncovering his true glory, his true identity. It was through Babajan that our age has come to know that it is Merwan who is the incarnation of God, for whom all of the world has been longing to return. Humanity has been waiting for his return for nearly 1,400 years.
In the back there's a footnote on Vidyan Veil.
Okay.
Page 213, you want to get? I mean, it says
313.
213.
Oh.
In the footnotes,
I see.
it says about the Vidyan.
Vidyani veil of the avatar is made by the perfect masters. It is made of Vijnani sanskaras that, by substance or nature, do not bind. Circle members of the avatar and perfect masters also have such Vijnani sanskaras, but their sanskaras are different in function. The avatar's Vijnani sanskaras are there as protection, so he may grow and develop into a mature man. The Vijnani sanskaras of circle members have to do with the perfect masters, or the avatar's universal work. The difference is in function, not in nature.
Wow. So in other words, they're the same. The circle and the avatar are the same, except the function is different.
No, not exactly.
It says, the difference is in function, not in nature.
Yeah, but
the nature of the sanskaras are the
But the
same.
sanskaras, well, I don't think sanskaras is everything. Is that encompasses everything in the...
But I mean, these are special sanskaras given to the circle.
Yeah.
For the masters, for Baba's
For his
work. So it's kind of like a setup. He has those things that he wants to work on manifest in the sanskaras of the circle members,
Well, it's
so
like,
that he actually gets to work on those.
it was like in a newsletter, what was said about sanskaras, about the ways of realizing God on your dying breath. Did you read that? It says here, the following is an excerpt from Mani about, remembering Baba. Baba says, you come to me if you remember him in your dying breath. But it says, as for the Mandali of Baba and the very intimate men and women disciples, their case is entirely different. Their very existence is because of the breath of Baba's grace, and with or without their body, their existence is in Baba.
That's so beautiful.
So, anyway. The Mandali.
So what, so the closest circle.
Right.
How about that?
What does that mean?
That means that they're just very blessed.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. When Erich, they talk about they're not in any rush to get enlightenment. They want to be there with Baba again. But from this, it would seem like it's inevitable that they.
Yeah, exactly. You're right there. Yeah, because I have that feeling that
They would have God union, because it's almost like there are.
He says, we don't want to get realization. I want to come back and be with Baba. That was Erich's,
That's right, he'd always say that. Yeah, they don't want liberation.
Through his contact with Narayan Maharaj, Merwan was now beginning to feel the glory of his godhood. He was still dazzled by the glorious light and bliss, but now his own light and bliss was to begin to dazzle others. After some days in Poona, following his contact with Narayan Maharaj, Merwan told BEHRAMJI, Latus, and Bailey, "Come with me. I am going to meet certain very great saints. They are very holy. The men I will let you meet with me all belong to God." Merwan, with his 3 close friends, went to Bombay first. There they met a man called Tipu Baba, who was a God-intoxicated must of a very high order, the 6th plane, and was the spiritual charge man of the whole city of Bombay. Tipu Baba had inherited his spiritual charge from Andul Rahman, who had been a perfect master before Merwan was born. Then Merwan and his 3 companions traveled to Aurangabad, famous for the Ellora caves and the tombs of many saints. There they met a Majub of the 7th plane named Bain Mian Baba, who is considered a great saint by the local people. And this man had a close connection with Sai Baba of Shirdi. It was Sai Baba who had given God realization to Bain, maybe it's Bane, Bane Mian Baba, and stationed him in Aurangabad. Merwan sent Latus and Bailey back to Poona, and then took a train to Nagpur with BEHRAMJI via a circuitous route in order to meet the 3rd perfect master of the age, the Kutub, Tajuddin Baba. In Nagpur they inquired of Tajuddin Baba's whereabouts and were informed that they should take a tonga to the town of Vaki Sharif, some 17 kilometers away, where they would find Tajuddin Baba. Accordingly, in a horse-drawn tonga, they rode to meet Tajuddin Baba, the most renowned living saint in central India. There was a large gathering of devotees around the Kutub, and all were concerned as Tajuddin was in an ill-tempered, fiery mood. He had been venting his fury on those around him, abusing everyone who came for his darshan that day. When Merwan and BEHRAMJI arrived, someone informed them, "This is not a good day to see Tajuddin. The master is in a very bad mood. If you go, be prepared to be abused. Be prepared for a lashing." Merwan looked at the person and then smiled, thinking, "He is waiting for me." Tajuddin had been waiting for me to arrive, has been waiting for me to arrive. Merwan and BEHRAMJI walked through the grounds towards where Tajuddin was seated. Tajuddin, a balding, gray-haired man, was dressed simply. Merwan took the lead as they approached Tajuddin. The fragrance of roses perfumed the air. To everyone's surprise, Tajuddin became silent, stood up, and started walking toward Merwan, limping as if suddenly crippled, staggering toward him with roses in his hand. Their eyes met and their gaze locked. What divine messages were these 2 exchanging?
Sai Baba.
Sai Baba.
Seat over here.
Tajuddin caressed the roses on Merwan's cheeks and forehead. No words were spoken. There are no words to the divine song. The singer utters the story in the language of song, which only he and those who have heard it can understand. The silence between Merwan and Tajuddin Baba was of awesome depth. This silence will one day overpower this age. Our age will know that their meeting was a spiritual union between the ocean and the sky. Ocean and sky were one. Their silence stilled the heavens and the earth. The wine of love merged between these two oceans. Merwan was coming down out of the heavens of the plains. The ocean of love was merging into his bodily form. Merwan was experiencing the descent back down to earthly consciousness. Tajuddin then waved the roses in a farewell gesture. He seemed overcome with profound happiness as he gazed upon Merwan. Silently in the stillness of the crowd, Merwan and BEHRAMJI slipped away. The perfume of roses permeated Waqi Sharif. "My rose, my heavenly rose," Tajuddin finally muttered. Merwan and BEHRAMJI headed straight for the train station and boarded the first train back to Poona. "Taj, Taj, my Taj," muttered Merwan. None knew what he meant. He had received his crown.
Wow. What a great
Taj, what is Taj?
Taj
his
Crown.
name. That's, Taj means crown?
Crown, yeah.
But his name was Tajuddin Baba.
Tajuddin Baba was Crown. Taj means crown.
Oh, because he wears the crown, I guess.
And they called him for affectionately Taj.
Oh.
Wow. Tajuddin, you pronounce it.
Tajuddin. Tajuddin, that means crown for the religion. Religion for the crown. That's or crown for religion. Deen, that means religion.
Did you study in university in Iran? University?
Deen means religion.
Deen means religion, yeah.
Jew means
Taj means crown.
Taj.
Taj. Very educated.
You're
very educated.
Really?
Yeah, you're very.
Thank you.
Have this great,
Thank you very much.
things.
Don't laugh. He's right. He's right.
No, he says that all the time.
No, I mean,
Kathy never says anything, but
she comes up with these.
these things.
Yeah, I mean, really, you.
Thank you very much, Jai Baba.
Oh, hi.
Jai Baba.
You got a chair?
Here.
No, I don't have mine. See? No, it's not mine.
We just had a good party on Tajuddin.
Meeting Baba.
Meeting Baba.
And they said there was like a union of the ocean and the sky were one.
Yeah, let me just read that
Why
little
don't you
bit
read
again.
that
That was so good.
from this here?
There are no words to the divine. There are no words to the divine song. The singer utters his story in the language of song, which only he and those who have heard it can understand. The silence between Merwan and Tajuddin Baba was of awesome depth. This silence will one day overpower our age, this age. Our age will know that their meeting was a spiritual union between the ocean and the sky. Ocean and sky were one. Their silence stilled the heavens and earth. The wine of love merged between these two oceans. Merwan was coming down out of the heavens of the plains. The ocean of love was merging into his bodily form. Merwan was experiencing the descent back down to earthly consciousness. Tajuddin then waved the roses in a farewell gesture. He seemed overcome with profound happiness as he gazed upon Merwan. Silently in the stillness of the crowd, Merwan and BEHRAMJI slipped away. The perfume of roses permeated Waqi Sharif. "My rose, my heavenly rose," Tajuddin finally muttered. Merwan and BEHRAMJI headed straight for the train station and boarded the first train back to Poona. "Taj, Taj, my Taj," muttered Merwan. None knew what he meant. He had received his crown.
It is so sweet.
So where does this go to now? Who's
Oh,
Who wants to read? Debbie?
okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Upon returning to Poona, Merwan resumed a deep association with his close childhood friend Kodu. Kodu was then 25, a few years Merwan's senior. He was an exceptionally strong man and had a powerful physique. Although Kodu was unaware of Merwan's spiritual state, he loved him tremendously and honestly considered Merwan to be his only real friend in the world. Kodu affectionately referred to Merwan as Langoti, friend, meaning a close pal or buddy. Kodu always acted in an informal manner whenever he was with Merwan, and naturally Merwan did the same. Once Merwan went to Kodu's house, but he was absent. Kodu's wife, Naja, asked Merwan to wait, and he requested some food. Naja served Merwan a meal, which he ate ravenously. After eating, he had decided to leave when Kodu arrived and started teasing Merwan playfully, catching hold of him in a tight bear hug. Merwan warned him, "Kodu, stop wrestling with me. Don't hold me like this." Then he mysteriously added him, "I am no longer that Merwan."
So that was the first time. First time he said somebody.
Yeah.
That was the first, because, he used to play with his friends.
That Merwan.
I am not young little boy or young,
Yeah, well, I'm really
No, he went
like
wrong
that.
5, that
Or
was the
ordinary.
last 5th, but the Tajuddin was the 5th perfect master. Or?
I think so, wasn't it?
Was he the first?
Well, no, he didn't. Has he seen Upasana yet? He hasn't seen him.
Oh, no, that's right. The last two were Upasani and Sai Baba. Have you seen Tajuddin, Harzat Babajan? Tajuddin.
Ryan,
Now we're going to say it several ways.
No, but Tajuddin, that's the Muslim way. Yeah, but anyway, no, I'm not sure about your question. Is anybody?
So it's not.
I mean, he said that.
Well, who have we covered so far?
He saw Hazrat Babajan. Narayan Maharaj.
Well, we did all 5 masters at the beginning of this volume, but now it's describing the interchange with Baba.
I don't think he's seen Sai
That was the
Baba.
first one, I think.
Babajan is his first one.
First one was
And then
Harzat,
Narayan Maharaj was second.
Right.
and then
And
Tajuddin.
then Tajuddin.
Yeah, so he still hasn't seen
Okay,
the
so,
last two.
All
so it's still
Good.
We got that straight. Okay. Thinking he was joking, Kodu smiled and retorted, "If you are not that Merwan, then who are you?"
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Who are you? Yeah, you're not Merwan, our buddy.
Yeah, right. I will see who this Merwan is. Kodu thought he would overpower Merwan with his physical strength and hurl him to the floor. At this time, Merwan was very slender. Kodu lunged for Merwan's arm, but in a gentle manner. Merwan stretched out his hand to prevent him, and with a slight push sent Kodu reeling back, knocking him to the floor. Kodu was shocked and amazed by Merwan's strength. Merwan was not angry and good-naturedly helped Kodu to his feet. Both sat down and started talking. Kodu had immediately realized that Merwan was no longer an ordinary man, and he started to look upon him with awe. Okay, and there's a footnote.
physical strength, you can make change.
Yeah, well,
Get respect.
That's right. You can't push her out.
We met, when we were in Hamipur, we met a little man named Mangalal. He's kind of Hiralal's counterpart. And at one point he had much life experiences, and he was very small like Hirilal, and he said that when he had those experiences, he could, and Pakar knew it, have thrown Pakar, and he showed this courtyard that must have been 50 yards across. He said, I could have thrown him right across this.
Pakar was a big man.
Yeah, Pakar was a big man.
He was here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
It's like
Oh, Baba was sitting, was that Bukhara where Baba was sitting? Bent over and sitting.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, in that movie. Yeah.
Okay, the footnote is, years later, when recollecting the incident, Kodu said, "That day proved to be the most significant of my life. When I saw Merwan's eyes, I knew I had lost a friend, but found a saint."
Wow.
the close again.
That's right, is it?
Yeah. After this incident, Kodu and Merwan started seeing each other more regularly. Merwan told Kodu about Babajan, and Kodu was deeply impressed, accompanying Merwan whenever he went to see her. They would sit by Babajan's side hour upon hour, late into the night, returning to Kodu's house as late as 4 o'clock in the morning. Often they would discuss the significance of the Qawwali singing held earlier that night before Babajan. After a few months, Babajan often repeated to Merwan, "My son, the treasure which you seek and the key to that treasure are not with me. I am not the one to give it to you. The treasure is yours. It is for you alone. There is no doubt about that. The treasure is yours. But my son, you must have the key. You must take the key." Babajan would always speak about this in a cryptic fashion. It seemed unclear what she meant. Then one night she spoke in a very clear manner. "The treasure is yours to have now. The key is there. Go to Shirdi, my son. There is a Sai, a holy one there. Go and see the Sai. See if he will give you the key now. Take the key from the Sai."
So what does Sai mean?
Sai Baba. I
Sai
think.
Baba.
Sai, yeah,
Sai
but he
Baba,
says
what
it
is
is
this
Sai.
Sai. Short means.
Short for Sai Baba. S-A-I.
Sai, Iranian, I mean the language meaning is the try, to try. Sai, that means I try to do something.
I try,
Yeah,
attempt.
I try to reach that light exactly.
So
Like
try Baba.
you have to try.
Try
yeah.
Baba.
Trying to get the key from Sai.
I couldn't make it like that.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's not a title.
You
It's not a title.
No, Sai, that means I try to come here at 8 o'clock, I couldn't make it.
is
I
it-
try to do something, I couldn't make
Why
it.
can't it be?
So what does it mean when you say Sai Baba? Does that mean try to be
Try Baba.
Try Baba.
Try a code? That's interesting. That's interesting.
Try to be Baba.
Offer Baba.
Try
Sai
Baba,
offer. Try like that.
try Baba, or take one.
Take one.
Try and take one.
Take
Oh, that was good.
Good resolution.
Oh. Oh boy.
Oh my goodness. Okay, take the key from the side. All right, a few days passed after Babajan said this, and then Marwan told Cody, for the past several months, I've had a terrible pain in my stomach and it won't go away. I don't know what to do about it. Kodu had heard of the miracles surrounding Sai Baba, and remembering what Babajan had told Marwan, said, "My friend, if you will come with me to see Sai Baba, perhaps your pain will disappear. I have heard that he has cured every type of affliction. Miracles are an everyday occurrence at Shirdi. Let's go and see this holy man." Wow, what a thing. Hey, let's go see the holy man. And, you know, God, that be part of your life. Merwan agreed, although neither he nor Cody knew where the village of Shirdi was, nor how to get there. Merwan became very insistent that they find out as soon as possible, and upon doing so they left. Their journey was not easy, and when they arrived at Shirdi, the villagers were blocking the road with clubs in their hands. We have come to see Sai Baba," said Kodu. "Let us pass. You cannot see Sai Baba. No one can see him," the villagers shouted. "He has given instructions that no one should come for his darshan today. You have to go back from where you came." Kodu pleaded, "But we have come all the way from Poona. We must see Sai Baba. Please understand." The villagers refused to listen to Kodu's pleas, saying, "We must obey Sai Baba's instructions. We cannot allow anyone to pass by here." Although Kodu was very strong, he knew he was no match against the villagers, and he also sensed that they really would club him and Merwan. He turned to Merwan and said, "It looks like we will have to go back. Those men will beat us if we try to pass them." "Let us wait," replied Merwan, and pointing to a nearby tree, he continued, "Let us wait by that tree. If you are afraid of them, you can go back, but I have come to see the Sai, and I will." They spent the night under the tree in spite of the warnings of the villagers. It was winter time, and Kodu shivered all night in the bitter cold, while Merwan seemed oblivious of the temperature. The next morning they awakened and had hot tea at a nearby vendor, but there was no word from Sai Baba, and the villagers still refused to let them pass. In the afternoon word came. Sai Baba is calling you two, said the villagers. Go to his mosque. He is still in a bad mood. Be careful, they warned. Sai Baba was then 77 years old, white-bearded, with a head of snow-white hair, dressed in a white kafti gown. He was seated in his mosque, the Mother of Mercy, and pointed to Kodu, said, I want to see that fellow only. Kodu nervously walked up and bowed at Sai Baba's feet, and when he did, the old fakir slapped him on the back so hard that it knocked the breath out of him. Kodu was startled, and then Sai Baba inquired, Who is your friend? What does he want? His name is Merwan. Merwan Shahriar Irani. He is very devotional and eagerly desires your darshan, Holy One. Baba Jan in Poona has told us about you, Sai. The old fakir's eyes were aflamed. Oh, no, Sai Baba suddenly cried. No, I won't. I won't allow him to see me. I won't let him come. The old...
I'm trying to get the key. That's why he's like,
The old fakir's eyes then gazed upon Kodu, and he said, Give me all your money, all of it. Kodu did. Then Sai Baba said, Now go and tell your friend I won't see him. He cannot come to me. Kodu laughed and reported to Merwan, who shook his head and said, No, let us just wait. I must see him, and I will. Later, Sai Baba was on his way after performing his lendi.
You know what lendi is?
No.
Procession to the toilet.
Oh, no.
When Sai Baba would go to the toilet, they'd bring out the band with trumpets and drums. He'd come from his place to the outhouse, you know, and they'd have a line.
They had a big
Parade.
They'd have a parade.
And a parade to go to the lendi.
That's where rock and roll comes from.
You know, baby. Lendi. I gotta do my lendi.
Lindy, I must do it.
Neither Lendi nor Barobi.
Yes, and that's what they're saying. Later, Sai Baba was on his way after performing his lendi in a field with a large procession following him. A band playing, and the atmosphere was very joyful.
Though on the radio tomorrow morning when Freddie goes to the lendi.
Every morning it's special.
Forgot your little drum.
Oh yeah, I love my lendi.
Me and the dogs.
You have to make music so
So a band playing and the atmosphere very joyful, though at the same time solemn with reverence. Contrary to what Kodu had said, Sai Baba now appeared to be in a very good mood. As Sai Baba was about to pass them, Merwan stretched himself full length on the ground in front of him, in front of his feet, seeing in the Shatsang Namaskar, bowing at full length to the Master's feet, in a deep, deep voice, as if rising from the very depths of the ocean. Sai Baba uttered one majestic word, the Mohammedan name for Lord Vishnu, Parvardagar, meaning God, the Almighty Sustainer. Sai Baba's eyes were lustrous with universes shining out of them as he conveyed this holy word. The old fakir's lustrous eyes were sending a message. And here's a picture of him.
Listen, talk together.
The Lendi.
Sai Baba.
How lovely that he would allow that to be, that to let people do that and go with him every time he went.
He probably went very seldom. I assume that was celebration.
Like a
no?
celebration.
You think he went seldom?
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, maybe people.
I don't know.
There was a chance for people
Yeah.
to see him out amongst them.
That's right.
Sort of in a way. And probably, universes and suns came out when he went to the lendi. Didn't somebody say that?
It's also that, it's considered, sacred.
That's right.
It is from.
What comes, I'm sure that people took it, probably.
Yeah.
But the point was, didn't somebody say that, I don't know if it was a song or a poem, that when the God-man or a perfect master goes to the toilet, it's like suns and stars.
Yeah,
Bauji
Verses come out.
Bauji said
You
that.
know what
Yeah, Bauji said that.
Baba said it.
Erich once told? You probably never heard it. when he, that once when Baba sometimes would do things what Eric would not believe. What can he would say? Oh, that old man, what he's thinking. He would kind of promise something and don't do, things like that. And then he would go to toilet, and Baba and Eric would give him party, party, and he says he had to empty the party, He says once it was like colorful, like rainbow.
A party was like the colors of a rainbow?
Yeah, not party, but the voodoo.
His lendi was like a rainbow.
Oh, the lendi had yellow, blue, red, green.
Orange, purple.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It made him change his mind about what,
but it was,
And it sparkled?
Well, something like this, that it was kind of iridescent. Exactly.
And nobody fed any kind of special food, colored
It
food.
was,
It was
because
just
he was
natural.
already in that time. Because, but he said too, he went on party, he was sitting there. And sitting there, he says, I don't know, what is that old man doing, So much time passed,
Oh, wow.
And then later.
and then when he came out, it was,
So he kind of made for Erich to,
I saw Baba's chair, I put the top up, I saw things was underneath.
the party.
Inside, yeah.
oh really?
So who are you talking about, Jurgis?
I saw the
Erich was
And
told
Baba.
us.
Baba's
With the mandolin?
Huh?
Erich with Baba or with a must?
No, but the Baba.
With Baba, our Baba.
Erich took care of Baba, and he sometimes would be disappointed because Baba would act like, he doesn't know what he's doing, and would take a long time and kind of...
constipation.
No, not really.
No.
I don't know.
I think what you're,
Short remark.
I think maybe Jurgis was saying like maybe just oriented or something.
Let's devote the rest of the meeting about potty talk.
What he said it
Mine was orange. I ate at a Mexican restaurant last night. No, let's stop it.
Oh, naughty, huh? Well, Jurgis, thank you for telling us that. That was great. I hadn't heard that.
No, but that's
Baba
beautiful.
said something
That's,
too one time.
The life of the party.
In Jacob's house, he was telling that.
I know, remember he said something. He says, it's just
God or something
suns
like
and
that,
universes come.
Baba
Yeah.
said, you don't like that. That is God is that. Baba talked to him about that.
That's right. It was something about commenting on Baba going to the toilet.
Yeah.
And Baba says, you don't realize.
You realize that, it's God is that. I don't know, I forgot, but I know something like that Baba said to him.
Yeah, something about that even the avatar going to the potty has significance. Well, when you think about it.
There were also stories where he would be on fasting, for months, just drinking tea, and he was still going, to the bathroom, eliminating. Don't you remember? He'd have tremendous. There's a lot of strength.
It would just be liquid then, wouldn't it?
No.
No?
I mean, it describes it in here.
So he would.
It was like that was the way he was purifying, doing his universal work that way.
Wow.
Don't you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
What you was talking about that, yeah.
Because it was like, taking on things, using his physio. I don't know what it was, but I mean, that's what it says in it.
The word, but he mentioned it, that good story.
Well, I remember when Mohammed the Must was constipated. When I was visiting, in the 80s or 70s, even 70s, with Padre told me that he had not gone to toilet for 13 months.
Oh my God!
That his basic rectum was like concrete. It was like you needed a chisel almost to chisel whatever milk or chapati that got just cramped in there.
Jim Meyer does that work in Myrtle Beach. He worked on this place. You make something like that with machine, that people are like that.
Colonic.
Yeah,
but they had to actually do some kind of special emergency procedure to chip away this It was chalk. It was literally like chalk.
After
And,
13 months, you'd
it
think
was
anybody else would be dead.
13 months.
Well,
I'm just saying he's a must.
He's a must.
He's a must.
He's on the fifth
He's a
plane,
must.
so.
And, but it was unbelievable.
Wow. Well, I remember someone
Now
said
I know
also,
why you record this. I was wondering why you recorded people reading.
Yeah, we discussed it. But this is also good record.
Did you shut off now?
No. This is good for people that are blind or
everything
can't,
open.
or someday they want to listen to what happens in a meeting. 20, 30 years from now, Baba lovers will want to know what happened.
Oh my goodness.
well, remember the story too about World War II or something with Muhammad, with how we set up all the different potty, like all the little toilets, the little portable ones that he had. I guess he set them all up strategically a certain way, and he said this was the way all the guns were going to go. So we actually used, so it shows you that if going to the restroom, going to the bathroom represents the gross plane. I mean, when they're dealing with that, of course it's going to be a blessing. All the masters, I mean, that's just part of it. They're dealing with our plane when they're dealing with the elimination process.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Very well said.
But another thing I want to tell you that you said Sai Baba.
Sai.
It's Sai Baba.
Sai.
Sai that means try, Sai. But Sai in our Iranian language is to first number one student. Like they say that the student is very Sai. You know what I mean? Number one.
S-A-I.
Sai that right. But Sai that means
Sai is number one.
Very
Sai.
Very
So that's
Okay, that's more like it.
Right, number one.
But you said Sai doesn't try.
Try.
I try to come here, I Sai did come here. But Sai Baba, you have to
Sai.
That means
S-A-I.
That means number first student like that.
Well,
So my
probably
son is Sai in school. Ooh, for number first.
Number one.
Some American family may have named their son Tri Baba now, no? Because we got an idea, T-R-I Baba.
Right.
Like, Tris Speaker, Tri Baba. Oh, well.
So,
Yeah.
I love that.
We tried. Okay.
Okay. The old fakir's lustrous eyes were sending a message. Oh, here's a beautiful photo here. Of Pasni. I'm sorry. It's right there. It's like, I just went, wow.
That is a great, look at where he's
Look how thin he got.
That's a Pasni. That's a Pasni. And I turned and looked at it.
They just literally did not need a body.
No, they didn't.
He looks like this flesh is just barely hanging onto the bones.
He looks entirely different.
no water, no food.
He probably has about a 10-inch waist, looks like.
Let's see. The old fakir's lustrous eyes were sending a message to Merwan.
Yeah.
He had the big stomach,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's gone.
It says Sadhguru Pasni Maharaj, naked except for the gunny sack after his 1-year fast during 1915. The year Merwan met him at the Kandaba temple in Shirdi. I guess he fasted.
He fasted after Baba met him, he fasted all year.
Oh, this was taken.
The year that he met Merwan. The year of his meeting him.
It was after. I think that was after he went to Sai Baba, and then Sai Baba had him do that fast, wasn't it, or something? It was after his meeting with.
No, this is a positive. To Merwan, but to the ignorant his word was inexplicable. For at the instant when Sai Baba had spoken, Merwan had become all powerful. Sai Baba had given him infinite power. Who would like to read next?
The key.
What was the word?
It's the second paragraph.
What was the word that he had spoken?
Parvardigar.
That was the key.
Yeah. Second paragraph there.
And he didn't want to give it up. It was like, no. And he goes, I'm going to wait for it. I'm going to see him.
When Kodu and Merwan had arrived in Shirdi, the air was still. There was no movement in the trees. The sky was gray and the atmosphere was solemn. But when Sai Baba passed Merwan at the proclamation of Parvatigar, a warm breeze arose as the sun shined out of Sai Baba's eyes, and the branches of the trees began swaying, as if dancing in the presence of Almighty God and his reflection. Everything in the universe was in sudden harmony, as if declaring, Merwan is God. Those who surrounded Sai Baba were astonished at the sudden change in his mood. When the Lindi procession had started, he had been serious. Now he was luminous, beaming as if the sun had descended and taken form, smiling before him. No one except Sai Baba knew the reason why. The message he delivered with his eyes, Merwan alone could read. After Merwan had arisen, Sai Baba paid obeisance to him. No one could explain why he was now bowing to this young man. With a cry, he again uttered Parvatigar and rose, beckoning Merwan to walk on. As Merwan and Kodu slowly walked away, Sai Baba, with a loud cry, again clearly repeated, Parvatigar. As the music of Parvatigar, 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 our age bowed to Merwan. But this age is ever powerless to sing the praises of the Almighty God unless God himself enables humanity to do so. Kodu followed Merwan as he led the way to a Hindu temple 3 miles away. It was the Khandoba temple, where Upasni Maharaj was seated on its steps, naked and virtually as thin as a skeleton. As Merwan approached the Sadguru, Upasni Maharaj picked up a stone, then stood up and threw it with all his strength at Merwan, striking him on the forehead exactly on the spot where Babajan had kissed him. Upasni Maharaj's throwing of that stone was of a holy force. Our age was to know of its impact because it drew Merwan's blood. Our age would come to know that this, as the first blood, he, the Ancient One, shed for the world. The impact left a permanent scar on Merwan's forehead. That scar remained to remind our age of when Merwan first regained consciousness of our world. With the impact of the stone, Merwan's eyes started seeing the gross world again after nearly 2 years.
Keep going if you want, whatever you want.
How wonderful was the impact of that stone. Although stone is the most gross form of consciousness on earth, it brought God back to consciousness of our world. Merwan had been divinely absorbed in his own godhood and had almost no consciousness of the world around since Babajan had kissed him. With this stone thrown by Upasni Maharaj, Merwan's worldly consciousness was to increase daily and eventually completely return, though it took nearly 7 years for him to completely come back down to gross human consciousness. After being struck by the stone, Merwan, instead of running away in fright, walked closer to Upasni Maharaj, and they embraced. With tears in his eyes, Upasni kissed the bleeding wound on Merwan's forehead. He took Merwan alone inside his temple, inhabited by snakes and scorpions, while Kodu stood some distance away, startled by what he had witnessed. Kodu just stood there. He could not understand what was happening. He had been bewildered by Sai Baba's cries, and now this naked yogi had hit Merwan with a stone. Kodu could do nothing but wait, because Merwan and Upasni were inside that strange temple together, and he dared not go near it or interrupt them. Kodu was particularly concerned about what Shireen would say if something happened to Merwan. He was very worried that she was going to blame him for taking Merwan to visit that holy man, Sai. Now Merwan was wounded and bleeding, and if he was seriously hurt, Kodu knew he would have to face Shireen's temper. Kodu became more and more worried and frightened about his dear friend as hour after hour passed, for Merwan did not come out of the temple. Night came, and Kodu waited nearby the temple, shivering in the bitter cold, longing to know what was happening to his friend. Is Merwan hurt? Has he stopped bleeding? What is happening in there, he thought. The atmosphere around Khandoba's temple became forbidding. He dared not interfere. Another night and day passed, and the same thoughts crossed Kodu's mind. Finally, after 2 days and nights, Merwan came out of the temple the following morning, with Upasni at his side. Kodu was greatly relieved to see that Merwan was alive and seemingly well, though the wound on his forehead was deep, and he did not know how he was going to explain that to Shireen. Upasni looked at Kodu and said, "Take care of your friend. Make certain that he gets back to Poona safely."
Wow, I didn't know someone witnessed firsthand a friend. My God, Kodu. What a connection Kodu has. I mean, wow, he is. Whew.
I don't remember what happened. What did he go on through the Manzella meeting? I don't remember his name.
I don't know. I don't think he did. But boy, what a connection.
Was the Kodu who was learning this Persian language from Baba?
No.
No?
That was,
That was Beheram.
That was BEHRAMJI.
So,
Kodu was another friend. Kodu was the guy who wrestled Baba.
And he said that he had lost a friend, but it was looking in the eyes of the saint.
Right. I'd like to know about his life. What happened to him after that?
Yeah, he probably died.
Probably did.
No, and then come back again.
It's too much.
Come back,
I mean, to witness the stone.
too, you know.
Yeah.
and
It was
then,
neat to go to all those places in India
oh yeah.
where all that happened.
Did you went to that mosque where Baba was for 2 days and nights? Did you see that place?
I went to Shirdi and Sikori, and
But not that temple, but there. I want to say.
No.
I don't know. It was
Khandoba temple?
Is that in?
Oh, no,
I went
that's
to the house where they gave the exchange of Pasni and Baba.
right by Upasni. That's it's right
Met,
there.
you know,
It's right in that
Did you
area.
went to Pasni?
where they made up all those plans, but they kept going back and like negotiating where they were going to meet.
Did you-
I went to that place where they met, where he passed, and then gave over his charge to Baba, and then Upasni slipped shortly thereafter, dropped the body. But I went to that house with Minu. Minu took us all that day.
Did you went to Ashram?
Uh-huh.
To Pasni's ashram?
Yeah.
You know, at Akbar Press, across from the ST, at the bus station, Erich's uncle and I forget, Dan Sata used to live there, and Nashwan Mama.
He knows that. I know. I went by him.
And then, one day, you know, Nashwan says, this is where Baba stood when Babajan had herself driven up by a chauffeur from Poona. And they looked at each other for some time in silence, and then she drove off. She never saw him again. Well, the next time I was there, I was showing some people the spot, and I started choking.
Me too.
You too?
You too?
Was it the time you were with me?
I was by myself.
I choked so bad, I thought I was going to choke to death. And I was just choking.
From crying? Oh, no, where was
It was
this?
like an alley. It was behind the two rooms. He told me it was here. Babajan met with Baba. Between two rooms.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Were
one.
they-
This was right by the road, yeah.
No, this is
There
by
was
the
a
road,
bus
but-
station, and then there was this old funky building that they called Akbar Press.
Yeah.
And she had herself driven up there and just looked from the road. And they looked at each other for some time, he said.
And that's where she gave it? I mean, she...
No, that's after
No.
when she said
This was
goodbye.
the
Then
last-
she died
last
afterwards.
time
The
she
last
Yeah, and then
visit.
the last visit.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But that house was amazing.
And it's in Poona?
No.
No.
Nagar.
Nagar. Right along the road, they take
By
the
the
road.
ST station.
Yeah, the ST station to go to Marazad. You know, they drive along there.
Right.
But Baba used to come when he was speaking and take food out of the till.
Frigidaire.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that house was amazing.
You know what? He said that Baba came here at the same time that the Babajan came. He said Baba didn't have telephone. At that time was not phone, nothing was here. Babajan was in Poona, Baba was here. And he said Baba came, my sister or my mother was sick. My sister, I think he said, in the big bed. I went there, I lay down in the bed. Baba, because Baba was sitting on the bed. He said, I kept it everything like that. Baba said, he's 102-year-old, hardly talks. Me and Rose laughing to that. It still was making by his mouth our ear. He was there too. He said, what is wrong? Into my ear, but we laughing to that. So this is Baba said, on this bed, and then in the front bed, said my sister was sick. He talked to my sister. And then he said, within one day, Baba came here, immediately went by Frigidaire. Starting took for a Frigidaire to eat. And then, very up and down was walking.
No.
He said up and down, was walking around there, he was beautiful houses there, nice old, but very rich house. And then we just said, Baba, why was that like that? Ghost comes, impatiently. Immediately I saw on the road, taxi stop. Oh, Baba Jan came. Without even telephone or writing or somebody come. We told you that? Baba Jan got up from taxi stayed there. Baba Jan came and Baba, like that, they went behind the room to show us a spot. And then maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no word, nothing, they were just looking to each other. Immediately the taxi was there. Baba Jan left and Baba came. And Baba said, oh, I feel a lot of things on my shoulder now. Baba, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel heavy in my shoulder now, I have a big things now in my shoulder.
Then you lay down in the bed. You tried the bed?
And then I went.
But you've been in some sacred spots in your life.
You should see how we talked to that guy, that old man, the 2-year-old, our ear. I got his mouth. Word by word. Rose chow,
Rose Choi, yeah.
Ask her what you are doing.
I bet she's got a story to tell.
Really? I was going from here, Rose was going. Rose was going there, and one Iranian guy was with us from Canada. He was coming. He was going in his ear, word by word. He was told us beautiful story.
Wow. That is beautiful.
And my tear was coming.
Even right
was
the bus.
the old even brought us coffee, tea, chai.
Yeah.
Very classy man, very classy. He is 102-year-old, but he has a lot of class and rich man. No, Shivan, not
Shivan. No, he's only 100.
He was.
He looks 200, but he's only 100. You're funny, Ken.
He's 100 because he just turned 100.
Worse. I said approximately, but she said 200.
No, I know.
100 is very. He remembered everything from Baba.
Oh yeah, and he goes, and let some pearl out.
Not a story he told us. Ask Rose. Not a story he told us about Baba.
Where Baba sat at the table, you'd be sitting at this table, and the table would be ripping at your clothes, it's like falling apart, and then he says, well, Baba sat there.
And you'll be going, thinking about your clothes.
That's
great.
Like Baba, one time they invited him to go a big party about the big people, senator party like that, And some man was in them group. He showed us the house. House is there. We went in them house with Rose too. House was small house, close, old close. And then he said that guy had a wife, and then it's supposed to be all 9 o'clock here, and we gather 10 people like that, they go with Baba. And then Baba, we see he didn't come. And then Baba said, what's going? And then Baba said, everybody sit here, I have to go, I have something to do, come back. And we said, Baba, it's late, where you go? He said, no, I come back. And some 2-3 people, we went with Baba. Baba directly went to stay by their house, by that guy house. He said they're big fighting between his wife and himself. His wife was fighting with him, you don't have to go to that place. And when Baba went there, he felt so embarrassing, he cried, the big man was that, he was senator like that too.
Wow.
Other man, and then Baba said, he knew Baba knows some problem is there. And he went there, he talked to his wife, he brought the guy out, they went all together in this party and stuff. He knew they have argument there, he didn't come. A lot of good story he told us. Oh, you should see it.
The oldest brother, this is all Erich's uncle. And the oldest brother was called MEHRBABALibrary, and I only saw him in his mosquito net, sitting in a cross-legged posture. He looked like a pretzel. He was just really slight in the form. And Mera used to come by on the way back from the Samadhi when she'd come for Arti to visit him. She said he was very pure, he never touched a woman, and he was the oldest brother. The whole family.
Nashawan Mama, when Badamasi passed away, Nashawan Mama, just this January, came out to the Dharamshala in the
Mandali Hall.
Mandali Hall, and sat there for 4 hours while she was.
Wow.
So he's still getting around.
Wow.
one more thing I can say from him, he told us, I say fast, but I don't want to take your time. Because he showed us which room. You know, Dharamshala, in front of Dharamshala is one room. Blue door has that. He told me one time, it's very hot day, I went there to see Baba, and Baba was in that room. We were sitting, one pitcher of water was there, one small what do you eat? Caesar, no, small plate, what do you call it?
Saucer.
Saucer, yeah, one on the top for the water, you know, pitcher. And one small glass, you know, by the water. I was sitting and talking to Baba about a lot of things. In that room, he showed me. We went, me and Rose, we immediately went in that room. And then Baba was talking nicely, and it was hot day with that fun was there for us. So Baba made like that. Iraj or somebody came at the door room. He said to Baba, Baba said, go immediately on the road. 2 young men are walking, bring them here. Immediately we said, Baba, nobody is here. He said, am I telling you, immediately go. And Iraj or somebody else was, immediately they went outside. They said, 2 young boys, they were butcher. They were untouchable boy. And they were going house by house or village to village, slaughter the animal for them. You know, all bloody, all dirty, like the untouchable people they were. And they said 2 people, 2 boys, and they had nothing to do. Baba said, you have to bring it. They brought inside, and they saw Baba's room. And they saw Baba was shivering like that, shaking from them. We didn't do nothing, we didn't steal nothing, we didn't do nothing. They were crying to say to Baba. Baba said, no, come here, it's your home. They brought inside, immediately, one pitcher water to one of them, immediately fill up another pitcher water to other boy. And they drink, but they were so thirsty and tired, walking village to village by walk. And then Baba said, okay, immediately said to the, I don't know what Iraj or Bauji, he knows about Bauji, take them to Behrazat, the 2 boys. They said, Baba, they are untouchable like that. He said, I tell you, take them. And then tell to go, doctor, go ahead and give them job to the kitchen. First thing, wash it and shower, change the clothes. And then I went to Behrazat, and all Behrazat people were angry about Baba. Baba, what you doing? They are untouchable in the kitchen. Why? He said, I told you, you have to work in the kitchen. And they said, no, we cannot, you know, to wash the dishes, we don't want it. Baba said, you have to do it. I came here to make untouchable and us one. I came to make all of them one. I don't make them separate. They have to. They worked long time in the Baba's kitchen.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
That's nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Okay, now you
Thank you, Kathy.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kadu had given all his money to Sai Baba and was relieved to find that Merwan had some. Kadu took Merwan back to his house in Poona and had his wound cleaned and bandaged. Then Kadu took Merwan to his home, making some excuse to Shireen that Merwan had fallen and injured his head. Settled back in Poona, Merwan continued his regular nights visits to Babajan, staying by her side for at least 2 or 3 hours. It was rare for Babajan to allow anyone to touch her person, even to bow at her feet or kiss her hand. Yet she would tell Merwan to scratch or massage her back during those hours. When she would mutter enough, he would stop and depart for home about midnight. By that time, Merwan's fingers were so cramped, it would be difficult for him to straighten them. Merwan would lay down in bed with his eyes would remain wide open. He still did not sleep. Early in the morning, by 4 o'clock, he would be up, walking about the house. As dawn rose over the city of Poona, he would start melodiously singing the Zoroastrian Monajats.
Talk to God.
Oh, talk to God. As he had done throughout his childhood. His sweet singing delighted his family and neighbors who would long to hear him each morning. Merwan's voice had a special quality. It was full of feeling. He sang with all his heart. Can you imagine?
Oh,
Oh
my God.
Voice, yeah.
Oh, why can't we get that on tape? Be a big seller, wouldn't it?
It would.
Platinum. Okay.
Well, you know, the key to it is they say he sang with all his heart every morning. I mean, it wasn't just like a guy singing a popular tune. He would just, his heart.
Just really good. Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know in Mayra's book she talks about how, you know, she'd hear Baba singing, they'd wake up, and I never even thought about it, you know, until her book, reading about how he loved to sing and how it just flowed from him. what an incredible sacrifice
Yeah.
that it was for him to keep silent, that
Oh.
he never sang again, that, the description of I never even thought about it until I read that book, and I had such
Yeah.
appreciation.
He had such a
Yeah.
melodious
Part of his,
Wow.
his major suffering for us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Whoever heard him felt the meaning of the words of the prayers. His voice stirred their spirits, urging them to love God. It has been said that his voice carried like waves rising out of the ocean, and all things would merge with its sound.
Wow.
When Merwan was starting to come down to regain his human consciousness, he started eating twice a day and took either tea or coffee in the morning. However, the quantity of food was still insufficient to sustain a normal man. Naturally, his mother was quite happy he had started eating at least something regularly, though she was concerned about his weight. During this period, once a month, he would travel back to Shirdi to see Sai Baba for a few moments, and then stay with Upajni Maharaj at Khandoba temple for a few days. At times he would have BEHRAMJI, accompany him, and other times Kodu would join him. However, he always stayed alone with Upajni in the temple. During Merwan's visits, the Hindu Sadguru explained in detail to him about Zarathustra's life, his mission, and the divinity avatarhood of the Persian prophet.
Is that the same as Zoroaster?
Zoroaster, yeah. According to the teachings of the Zoroastrian priest, Zarathustra was the prophet of God, a messenger, not an incarnation of God, an avatar. The Upajni Maharaj explained that their Zoroastrian rites and ceremonies in the worship of fire had little to do with Zarathustra's true mission. From the gnosis, esoteric knowledge, passed down by Upajni Maharaj, Merwan now accepted Zarathustra to be Zarathustra.
Say Zoroaster.
Is it Zarathustra?
Zarathustra. To be an avatar, Zarathustra. Would sound Persian, Zarathustra. Okay. To be an avatar. An incarnation of God himself in human form. Naturally, when Merwan tried to convey these spiritual truths to his Zoroastrian friends, relatives and neighbors, they were taken aback and disturbed by these esoteric conceptions of the founder of the religion. The local Zoroastrian priests were particularly disturbed by Merwan's declarations. In this respect, Merwan would later repeat this couplet from the Hindu Sadguru and poet Kabir, that Upajni Maharaj had inspired. Both Guru and Govind stand before you. To whom should you bow? Bow to the Guru's grace, which has shown you Govind. Govind is God, the absolute and personal God. Guru is God, personal God. The Orthodox Zoroastrians do not conceive of a personal God in the form of the Guru, so they did not take well to Merwan's utterances. Although Merwan was beginning to regain a semblance of his normal human consciousness, he was able to recognize only his immediate surroundings. The power of the song within activated him, thus he was moved by the divine will like an automaton. Though to strangers he appeared and acted reasonably normal. Finding Merwan more like his old self, Shireen pressed him to find a job. Merwan did not like the idea. However, against his wishes and because of her pressure, he accepted a job as a clerk with a well-established brick contractor in Poona. We knew that. One day, Merwan was traveling in his employer's automobile, seated beside the driver. The driver accidentally struck an old woman crossing the street, and the contractor, who was seated in the back, told the driver to proceed and not to stop. Since a number of persons recognized the car, the contractor was soon arrested and summoned to court the next day. Merwan was also summoned. Waiting in the courtroom, the contractor told Merwan, "When it comes your turn to testify, deny the incident and claim we were driving elsewhere at the time."
Merwan?
Yeah.
No,
it's like Merwan telling
Trying to tell what to do, you know.
Telling God to lie, basically.
Oh.
Right. Isn't that something?
So what happened?
Merwan replied, "I cannot do that. It would be a lie. When he took the stand, he told the truth. The contractor was worried, but the judge ruled that it had not been solely the driver's fault. He fined the contractor a sum of 200 rupees for not reporting the accident. Do you want to go on from this? I'll keep on reading.
There's an envelope there.
Sure. Right here, reporting an accident after a few days? Or did you read that one?
I just read the first paragraph.
Okay. The contractor was worried, but the judge ruled that it had not been solely the driver's fault, yet fined the contractor a sum of 200 rupees for not reporting the accident. After a few days, Merwan was told by the owner to write false invoices, which he refused to do. He became upset, tore up the papers, and informed the man, "You are crooked, and I will not work for you anymore." He quit after working there only a short time. Again, Shireen pressed Merwan to find another job, and he was accepted as a school teacher at the Nargul village in the state of Gujarat. He was hired to teach 2 subjects, English and Persian. Can't believe he taught Persian and English too. His salary was 200 rupees per month, and he would send half of it home to his mother. But this teaching occupation lasted for only a few months, and Merwan either quit or was fired. There's a footnote here.
It's amazing that this is all after
This was
After
helping it ground him
yeah.
in the gross. Yeah.
And here it says, the footnote, the details of Merwan's leaving the teaching job at Nargul village are not recorded, but it was during this period as a school teacher that he originated the divine theme chart, which was explained and published 26 years later at a gathering in India during 1943. Refer to the book God Speaks, pages 241 through 243 for full description of the chart. Upon Merwan's return to Poona, Shireen again tried to find some steady employment for him. She was a determined mother. She was of the opinion that
That was her duty,
That's
to put sand on the legs.
That's right. She was of the opinion that the sooner Merwan became involved with a steady job, the better he would be, and the sooner he would be cured of his mental distress. Hence, his mother would not leave him alone or give him a moment's relief about getting a job. This went on every day, and her pestering was a constant irritation to Merwan. Even he had to deal with that. I love that. Yeah. Whenever Merwan would go to visit Apasni Maharaj, he would not tell his mother, or there would be a quarrel. He would confide in his aunt Peora, who loved him immensely, whom he would visit almost every day as a teenager. Uncle Rustom was a well-known patron of the arts and supported many professional theatrical stage performances. It was at their house that Merwan and his high school friends would rehearse their theatrical plays. When Merwan was a teenager, Shireen had a small baby, his brother Adi, to look after, and she would not like it if Merwan brought a house full of friends. Peora, on the other hand, loved to have Merwan bring his companions to her house. Peora was very spiritually minded, and while Merwan was growing up, she would often tell him and his friends many stories about saints and miracles. Peora and Rustom had a large compound around their house where Merwan and his friends would often play cricket. If Merwan would not come to her house for even one day, Peora would become worried. Thus, whenever Merwan would leave Poona for Shirdi, he would tell his aunt where he was going and tell her not to worry, adding that he would see her soon as he returned. Consequently, only Peora would know of Merwan's whereabouts when he was not in Poona. When Merwan would return from Shirdi, he would bring prasad for her from Apasni Maharaj himself. One time Merwan told his mother that he was going to Bombay to visit Jamshed. However, he took a bus to Shirdi instead and stayed with Apasni Maharaj. Shireen became suspicious and pestered her sister-in-law to tell her where Merwan had really gone, but Peora feigned ignorance. Merwan's younger brother Jal acted as a spy for their mother.
Oh my God.
When Merwan and Jal were young boys, Jal would report in detail to Shireen whatever went on at Peora's house. On this occasion, Jal followed Merwan to the bus station and found out he had not bought a ticket to Bombay, but to somewhere else. It was because of him that Shireen knew fully well that Merwan was not in Bombay. Shireen was very upset with her sister for not telling her where Merwan had gone, and she was also upset with her son for deceiving her. Upon his return, she scolded Merwan, "I am telling you for the 100th time, get a job and keep it." Start thinking of the future. Start thinking about earning a living. Start thinking about getting married. Stop wasting your life going here and there to saints and holy men. Stop it. Do you understand me? Do you understand what I am trying to tell you? Isn't that hysterical? At this time, World War I was in full force, and Merwan was so annoyed by his mother's constant badgering that he told her, "I have decided to join the army. I am going to fight the war." I love it. Hearing this, Shireen became terribly anxious and said, "Oh, no, you don't. Not you. You're not going to war. You stay right here in Poona." For some days, this ploy worked and Merwan was left in peace. Poona and her husband Rustom had 2 children, one named Aspandiar, later nicknamed Pendu, and a daughter, Naja. The entire family was completely devoted to Merwan, not because he was their relative, but because to them he had revealed his divine personality. Peora had asked Merwan to teach her children the Zoroastrian prayers and how to tie the sacred Kusti thread.
What?
Kusti. Kusti thread. And there's a footnote here. Kusti thread around their waist each morning. Let's see what they say. Kusti is a thick thread that Zoroastrians wrap and knot.
It's Indian people do it.
Wrap and knot in a certain manner around their waist. It is sacred in their religion because
Baba had that?
He taught the kids. He taught Naja and Pendu how to do this, and it is sacred in their religion because it symbolically represents tying oneself to God. Its deeper meaning probably has to do with the winding and unwinding of sanskaras.
Muslim doesn't have it.
It doesn't. So the 2 children loved him so deeply that once Aspandiar thought wistfully how wonderful it would be if Merwan were Zarathustra. We never have seen our prophet, and Merwan is so loving like him. He sings such beautiful prayers, and his nature is so good. I wish he were Zarathustra.
Oh, no.
Isn't that great?
If they only knew.
Mother wanted
Isn't that great? And then there's a picture.
Oh, look at
that?
What's that hat? It's called
That's
fez? Is that?
That's a fez.
That is the
Little fez.
That's a normal business suit during the early 1920s. Oh, he's so cute.
That's our Merwan.
Is that a fez?
from lamb skin.
Who wants to read? Jonathan, are you reading next?
What about Chris?
No, I
Have you already read?
Oh, Jurgis?
Jurgis?
Yeah, okay.
No.
If I can see it with my bad eyes.
You need glass?
No. Let me see. Yeah, it is helpful.
Okay.
That's the focus here. Later, when a business opportunity arose, Rustom and Piroja moved to Calcutta during 1916 to improve his disposition and for a change of environment. Merwan was sent to stay with them. Unfortunately, he was not at ease and felt uncomfortable away from his Poona friends, although Piroja did her best to console him. One day, however, a man named Kavas Katu met Merwan and felt extremely attracted to him. Kavas invited Merwan to stay at his estate, but he refused. Kavas, a rich and influential man in Calcutta, was well known in the theatrical circle and owned the Kato Theatrical Company. The company toured regularly all over India, giving dramatic performances, and Kavas wanted Merwan to become its business manager. Merwan politely told Kavas, "Sir, I am not looking for a job."
My mother is.
And I'm not interested in your business. I will treat you like a son, replied Kavas. Whatever conditions and wages you want, I will meet. Don't decline my offer. Merwan answered, Kavas, I am very fond of you also. but do me a favor and please don't press me any further about this. Nevertheless, Kavas was very drawn to Merwan and would not leave him alone.
Oh my.
After 3 months in Calcutta, Merwan returned to Poona. Meanwhile, Rustom had written to Shirin about Mr. Kato's interest in Merwan.
Oh no!
And the job he had offered that Merwan had refused.
Oh
Consequently, when Merwan arrived home, he was met with another onslaught of reprimands from his mother about his future. She was quite convinced that her son was wasting his life. At her insistence, Merwan had no choice but to write Mr. Kato and accept the promising position of manager of his theatrical company.
Oh, Baba's connection.
Merwan then soon moved back to Calcutta. His first job was to travel with the actors to Lahore in northern India, now Pakistan. He could not forget his friends in Poona, however, especially BEHRAMJI, with whom he would frequently correspond. In one such letter he wrote, "Dear BEHRAMJI, circumstances compel me to do this which I do not like to do. I am obligated to eat all sorts of things that I have no taste for, and keep myself dressed in clothes I have no desire to wear. Oh God, what entanglements, what sort of bondage is this?"
Oh my.
Even Baba had to do jobs.
There's a Shirin brother.
After he
Okay, should I continue?
Yeah, it's a very good subject.
Make a great play, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Because the human side of it would be so endearing and funny.
Yeah, it really
That
would.
part
Dialogue's already
especially.
there, isn't
I
it?
know.
It's
That was
Mother
written
and
it
the
that
son.
way.
yeah, mother.
That was
and
written
son.
it with the dialogue in it.
Yeah.
Merwan was obligated to play the role of businessman, dress in a suit and tie, eat rich food at restaurants, and attend parties.
And a tent party.
Strangely enough, though several weeks after he mailed this letter, Kavas Kato died.
Oh no.
Soon after, the company disbanded and went out of business.
Oh
That's
no.
why I didn't want him to suppress it, because he probably would have had a longer life if he had to continue to work.
That's right. Says you don't know what you're doing. Don't hire me.
Don't hire me. I'll have to terminate it.
Oh my. But Baba has a connection.
That was the beginning of actors'
Yes.
problems.
Yes, that's when actors have their problems.
Merwan returned to Poona in a relieved mood. At this time, his mother could not reprimand him for either quitting or being fired. From initial meetings with Sai Baba and Upasana Maharaj in 1915, Merwan started a grim habit which was to last the entire 7 years of coming down to normal consciousness. Every day, Merwan would regularly strike his forehead on the tiled floor of his room for hours. Some days in the afternoon, between 1 and 5 o'clock, he would go to the Golibar district of Poona or to the Tower of Silence, where sitting under a tree, he would continue this gruesome ritual, knocking his forehead on a rock or against the stone wall.
For 7 years, right?
Yeah. He was not merely tapping his head on the stone surface, but with full force would pound and pound his brow upon it, always inflicting a bloody wound. After pounding his head hour after hour, Merwan would collapse. He would then wipe the blood off his face and clean himself. Then tie a kerchief around his forehead and serve as a bandage, and as a turban, thus concealing the wound from his family before returning home. Here is a picture.
Oh my. I see. That turban was concealing the wound.
Yeah.
You know, Bauji took us to, on my first trip to India, to where you know, the Poona house and everything. In Peoria, his sister, the sister-in-law, came out and she brought out this ash that Baba, Dooney ash from one of Baba's Dooney fires, and some oil that he had touched and some different things. And she went around, she didn't speak any English, so Baoji was interpreting what she was saying. So she would go to each one of us and take the oil and the ash and do different things. And when she came to me, she put it here. And it just intuitively went to my throat, which I, you know, and I've been having a lot of throat stuff. So it was interesting that she did that. And then after she had said, Bao interpreted for us, and she said that she had been longing to see Baba and Mera. She'd just been missing them and longing. And she said that she looked out, and just a few days prior to our arrival, Baba and Mera, she saw them sitting by the well. Both of them were sitting outside. She saw them. So I didn't know, and they're taking me back to the room and where you can go and bow down. And I go in, and I didn't realize it was the stone that Baba had. So meanwhile, I had been traveling with Bao, and I hadn't slept in about 3.5 days. So when I got to this rock, I bowed down, and I totally burst into tears and don't remember my first, 5 days in India. It was such a profound experience what happened. Maybe because I wasn't expecting anything and didn't know what I was about to, bow down to. And then it just overwhelmed me. And it was like, I remember I couldn't stay awake on the bus. And then I really couldn't, talk to people for about 5 days.
Which house was that, the stone?
Poona. In Poona, right near Baba's house. It's where they live. Where
in that room.
Pumpkin's house.
No, the stone. No, the stone is not in Pumpkin's. In his house.
In his house. Yeah.
By the well.
Where the well is.
Not the covered it.
That's right.
Not the covered it stone.
Yeah, the small stone.
It's a little stone.
It's a little
small room.
Small room. It has a
cover
It does have a cover over it.
Oh, now maybe it has.
It had a cover over it
When I went to 81, there was no cover.
No
You
cover.
could put your head right on it if you
Yeah.
wanted
I
to.
did that too.
I thought it was enough. I was close enough.
Kathy, did you smash your head? Did you?
Like
Smash your head? Did you have
Of
that?
course I did. Ooh,
More than the 2 meters. Because I wasn't expecting any.
like that one. Like that too.
Oh,
Okay, let me
He
continue.
blasted me.
The local people and his relatives in particular thought by tying a kerchief around his head, Merwan was complying with some new trend of fashion. Little did they know the real reason behind it at that time. Only Merwan's closest friends knew how he spent his mornings and afternoons, but they did not tell Merwan's family, though they were at a loss to understand his strange behavior. While in Lahore with Kato's theatrical company, Merwan also pursued this terrible self-infliction. He had to manage the costumes and props during the performance. This would lead into the late night. During the day, when the rest of the group was sleeping, he would rise early and quite slip away to a deserted place where he would bang his forehead against the flagstone for hours.
Wow.
To come down from the highest spiritual state of God consciousness, I am God, to the normal human consciousness, I am a man, entails unimaginable suffering. This striking of his forehead was somehow a comfort to Merwan during the extreme anguish of his descent from the God state to normalcy, or world consciousness. Okay, who is the next? Thank you. Made me see.
Merwan himself later described these days of seething agony. This constant hammering of my head was the only thing that gave me some relief during my real suffering of coming down, which I have repeatedly said indescribable. The relief I felt by banging my forehead on a stone can be compared to that which a strong cup of tea gives an ordinary man overstressed. In actuality, the pain of regaining normal human consciousness was so great that only his physical suffering of striking his head methodically could ease it to some extent. Soon after Merwan returned to Poona from Lahore, his father fell ill and had to go to Bombay Hospital for an operation. Merwan was obliged to look after the Shirari or Cafe in his absence. The cafe was located near Asurkhana in the cantonment area of Poona. Merwan would be there the entire day from early morning, handling the cash register and generally overseeing the business. During these days, Merwan's mind was more engaged in writing poetry than concentrating on the restaurant business. Yet he was neither careless nor easily deceived, handling his affairs. He simply had no interest in making money. One day while in the cafe, he composed the following ghazal in Persian. Since seeing the map of the face of my beloved, it still remains drawn in my heart. Separation has cut the virtuous heart into pieces, leaving nothing but a stain of separation. Take the love of the flower as wisdom, or take the curls of the beloved as the snare. Remembrance of him is like the nightingales, and now the remembrance has gone beyond the hair. It is ensnared in my heart. When the self-annihilated duality disappears and the lover himself becomes God, the heart has only one place. Either the beloved is in the heart or the heart is in the beloved, both at the same place. O superficial renunciator, you make a spectacle of your prayer, asking God to fulfill your desires. Remember, a real lover does not always find God hidden in the heart. There is nothing to ask. He finds God manifesting in the world. The ways of the masses are peculiar. They make one laugh and weep simultaneously. Outwardly they appear different, but inwardly all of them have love. There is abuse on the masses' lips, but blessing in their hearts. Some say that the abode of the beloved is in a tavern. Some say it is in the mosque. Oh, Huma, where are you searching for outside? Understand that God is within. By the time the father returned from Bombay, Merwan has written several more ghazals along similar themes which she would share with Shahryar. In the beginning of 1917, Shahryar sold his tea shop, borrowed money, and obtained a license to open a toddy shop on the Zakapir Street. Merwan started working in this new toddy shop regularly for 2 days.